Hi guys, welcome to the new Moocharoo Ninja office, and also welcome to this video. This video is all about who I believe is most likely to be Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. Now, I just want to make this one important point before we actually get into the video, and that is, does it actually really matter who Satoshi Nakamoto is? And if we did, would it have a positive or a negative effect on the price of Bitcoin? Now, I believe it would be a negative if we knew who it was. And we know this because of other cryptocurrencies where we do know the founder. And more often than not, the price of those currencies tends to go up and down based on the tweets about the founder and their antics rather than the actual core fundamentals of the coin and the blockchain and all that of the actual currency itself. And no doubt you know this to be true, because every time Justin Sun has done this, Justin Sun has done that, you see the price of Tron going up and down with all the stuff that he's doing. Same goes with Charlie Lee of Litecoin. In fact, Charlie Lee, I believe, tweeted a year or so ago that he won't be doing any tweets about Litecoin anymore because every time he tweets, the price is going up and down based on what he said. And you see the same with Vitalik as well, with Ethereum, and Roger Ver for Bitcoin Cash, Craig Wright on Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, and the list goes on. So all of these coins which have a clear founder, they always go up and down in the market based on whatever's going on with the founder rather than the core fundamentals of the coin itself. So for that reason, I do not actually think it's a good idea that anybody really ever actually knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. But it doesn't mean that we can't have a very good educated guess, and that is what we're going to be doing right now. So, Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, if we check it out over here on Wikipedia, we can see there's a few different options. We've got Hal Finney, Nick Szabo, Dorian Nakamoto, Craig Wright. He's the one that's really out there in the press. You see all the time trying to push himself forward as being the one recognized as being Satoshi Nakamoto, which kind of goes against the whole thing of Satoshi Nakamoto wanting to not be known, not be recognized, hence the name Satoshi Nakamoto. So just that reason alone does make you suspect whether he really is or not, just on the sort of character thing. Also, because like I said, I believe Craig Wright is more the type of personality which, having created a technology which could change the world financial system, during a time like 2008, 2007, when the whole world financial market was collapsing due to the banking crisis and all that was going on back then, if he came about and created this Bitcoin solution to all the world's problems, surely a man like Craig Wright, with his personality, would have wanted to come out saying how great he was and how he'd made this amazing technology which would change the world, and probably patent it and sell the technology on. I'm not sure he is the type of character, the personality. I believe he's too smart upstairs to think about just giving it away all for free as if it was nothing. So I think he's a bit too clever to just give it away for free. I think he'd be thinking more along the lines of patenting and selling on a license. But with that said, maybe he is. The world is very strange, and sometimes the truth is even crazier than you ever imagined. So it's possible he could actually be Satoshi, but myself, I have other ideas. In fact, here on Wikipedia, all of these suggestions of these guys here, I don't believe it's actually any of these guys. I have somebody else in mind who I believe is more likely to be Satoshi Nakamoto, and that is this guy right here. Now, this is just a self-portrait, which I'm guessing the guy has made himself. His name is Josh Levine, and he has made the code that runs the world financial markets, both the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, and has remained mostly unknown the entire time due to his own will not to be in the limelight, that he doesn't want to be known, doesn't want to be recognized. So this is how the story began. So, Josh Levine. Now, this is his original blog, or at least a copy of it. And this is when he was working back with Daytech, where he was basically a high school or college dropout, just like Bill Gates, Richard Branson, all these type of guys. They all, like Mark Zuckerberg as well, they all drop out and then go on to create awesome stuff. This guy was no different. So he started working at a small company called Daytech, which was a small trading firm set up to take advantage of something called small order execution something orders. Basically, in the old days, you all had the stock traders in the pits at the exchange, with all the crazy hand signals, and they were the only ones with access to the market because you had to actually physically be there to make trades. But the SEC forced through this thing, or at least NASDAQ, opened up the opportunity for small order execution system, which was SOS, and a company called Daytech started actually trading using that system, so they could send through electronic orders over to NASDAQ to make trades. The only thing is, back in them days, you couldn't see everyone else's trades. Like you can now over on Binance and other exchanges. You can see all the orders in the system, you can see the depth chart, you can see all the candles of the previous price moves. Back then, you couldn't see any of that stuff. In fact, Josh Levine actually created a lot of that stuff that you see there today. So this was his original blog post, and you can see here on his YouTube channel, this is the Watcher. This is the system that he created for Daytech, which basically it would interact with NASDAQ's computers to actually pull out all of the orders going through NASDAQ, giving the Daytech traders a view that not even the guys in NASDAQ or the guys in New York could actually see in the pits. They just they're trading with everything in their heads. Whereas now the traders with Daytech could actually go on their computer screen and actually see this with the Watcher software. Also doing something called the Monster Key. And anyway, I don't really want this to drag on as some sort of huge history lesson. Basically, this guy done a lot of cool stuff. After creating this Watcher system, he then went on to take advantage of something being pushed through by the SEC, which was ECN's Electronic Communication Network something. Basically, so that rather than having to do orders in NASDAQ, in the New York Stock Exchange, people could actually do it there on an electronic network, like a website. Basically, an exchange just like what we have here today. Normal websites, exchanges, you can go on and make trades. So the Island ECN was the first ever of that type of kind, and Josh Levine had read several books on the sort of in-depth plumbing of how the whole market works, how it was put together, and he decided that it was very, very inefficient and he could create a much better system than what they were currently using. And he made, get this, take note, a distributed system, like a distributed architecture, one that could not fail, could not go down. Basically, whereas NASDAQ had $1 million worth of computers apparently, but they could only actually handle so many trades per second, what they had done with their distributed system was basically about 20 Dell PCs all stacked up on top, just cheap little PCs like the one we have here in the office. And he had networked all these together so that if one failed and went down, other ones would come in and take its place, and they could handle anything that the market could chuck their way. So all the orders could just come through Island. The problem was NASDAQ. So NASDAQ kept crashing, kept going down, and they really hated Island because of that, because of the order flow coming out of Island. So Josh Levine decided, rather than send all the orders to NASDAQ to be filled, that he could actually fill the orders on Island, so that he made a matching engine to match all of those orders on Island itself, rather than sending them to the exchange. But in order to create more liquidity on the Island exchange, to take more market share from people wanting to trade online, one of their main rivals being Instinet, which was a really big company, been around far longer than they have, he decided to come up with a fee structure rather than paying so much per trade. Basically, he came up with maker-taker fees, something you've probably heard of, right? That is a Josh Levine invention. So the market maker would actually get paid on island for making a market, and the taker would pay the fee plus the extra that island would make. So Josh Levine, he made order books, he made the maker-taker fees, he invented the depth chart that you see on there as well. Basically everything that you see on a normal cryptocurrency exchange today that's been used for ever since he created it, all this came from Joshua Levine. So we know Josh was a guy who was very creative. He certainly had the mind for creating amazing digital electronic products for financial purposes. But what about doing it for free, open source, friendly, and not really that fussed about making cash? Well, what you'll find is that he also possesses all of those attributes as well. So one day, a soon-to-be rival developer approached him and was asking him about Island because he was trying to build a rival to Island called Archipelago. So Archipelago, a group of islands, Island just one. And he was very much impressed with Island, and he wanted to create something similar. Now, Josh Levine, rather than being defensive and secretive or asking for money or anything like that, he actually jumped on the chance to help him, as he saw that creating more competition in the market was going to be good overall for the end users, not for himself, not caring for himself, but thinking more of the end users. And he actually handed out huge bits of code from Island to the guy who was creating Archipelago, absolutely for free, and extremely happy to do so as well. So he's completely fine with giving away his hard-worked invention all for free to anybody. He's really not bothered and doesn't want any sort of financial incentive for that. He's just happy to give it away. Also, at Island itself, they had many employees, and people have said that they would work there for like 3-4 months, and they would just think that Josh was just this nerdy guy sat in an office on his own. And as they'd been working there a few months, they slowly began to realize that he was actually the man behind the scene. But he never wanted to be in the limelight. He never wanted an executive title at Island. So he never actually took on CEO or anything like that. He would just push other guys up to take that position because he did not want any of the attention whatsoever. So he was very happy to sit back in his little office doing his own little thing in there while everyone else done the business stuff. However, the guy was no pushover, so they had lots of talks with the SEC that would come around, and Josh was very influential in those talks because he was really caring for the end user, which the SEC were very happy with, and he pushed towards something called decimalization in the stock market. So in the old days, all the banks were making an absolute fortune because they would trade in eighths, which was just fractions, rather than decimals like they do now, trading in pennies. And because they were trading in fractions, it meant that the banks were making massive amounts of gains with everything that was traded. So they really did not want decimalization. They did not want electronic trading. So I always believed that the banks were the ones that brought on the computing and the AI technology and the bots so that they could do away with the humans and not have to pay them wages. They could just have one computer to do the job of like 10-30 traders on a trading floor. But actually, as I said earlier, the truth is sometimes even more bizarre than you could ever imagine. The banks actually fought tooth and nail with the SEC to stop decimalization so that they could basically, for greed, they could make their massive profits and keep everybody employed, keep everything centralized in the bank itself. But unfortunately for them, Josh Levine won with the SEC, and decimalization came into the system, I believe, about 2001, and that actually shook all of the banks, and they had to lay off lots and lots of stockbrokers at that time because there just wasn't enough profit being made with them tiny little percentages they were making as the spreads tightened up and they were making less, trading in fractions of a penny rather than the big fractions that they were once trading before. So Joshua Levine, very influential, very knowledgeable, certainly no pushover, but open to share all of his stuff that he makes, and doesn't want to be in the limelight at all, and made the fastest distributed trading network, which is used to this day by the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. So how did that actually happen? Well, I believe it was in about it was after decimalization. Let's have a quick look. So Instinet here, this was their big rival at the time. And Instinet is still alive, unlike Ireland, because Ireland was actually bought by Instinet. This is it, Instinet to buy Ireland ECN. This was back in 2002, so just after the decimalization took in. This is basically, Ireland had the technology, it had the fastest technology, it was the fastest growing ECN on the market. Instinet was more old school, been around a long time, and they couldn't cope with the decimalization, nor could the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. They didn't have the networking infrastructure to actually cope with the amount of orders coming in through electronic trading. So these guys actually bought Joshua Levine's Island software, his stack of 20 Dell PCs, for 508 million. Now, I don't know if you know how much a Dell PC costs, probably about 50 quid here in the UK. Stack of 20, he sold for 508 million. Well, it actually wasn't Josh that sold it, it was the person that he pushed through, the manager he pushed through to actually do the deal. And this was a great deal for Instinet because not long after that, they actually sold it to NASDAQ. So here's something from the NASDAQ site itself. This was from 2005, so 3 years on. NASDAQ actually bought the Instinet ECN, which was Ireland, okay? And they bought that. It says here, Instinet stockholders will receive approximately 1.8 billion in cash. Which is from NASDAQ, so 934 of that from NASDAQ. Now remember, they just paid in 2002 508 million, and now they've basically doubled their money selling that software to NASDAQ itself. So NASDAQ now runs, as far as I know, on the Joshua Levine coded Island software that he made. And it doesn't stop there, because also remember he gave out massive bits of code over to his rival that was doing Archipelago, and Archipelago did actually do really, really well as well. So here it is, Wall Street Journal, New York Stock Exchange news on Archipelago merger. So the New York Stock Exchange, just like NASDAQ, it was struggling to keep up with the amount of orders coming through, so they needed this software as well, and they done a merger with Archipelago in order to stay up to date and compete with demand. So Joshua Levine, definitely somebody that has a history in distributed financial architecture, networking stuff. He has the brains to have made something like Bitcoin, no doubt about it. And he's very, very inventive. He created maker-taker fees and all this other stuff. And also, he doesn't really care about money or people knowing who he is or what his creation was. In fact, if you go over to his Twitter page, you can see here, this is his picture. It's very hard to actually find a picture of him, even on his own stuff like this. He has written here, Big Josh Levine, no one of any importance. He really does not want to be known, doesn't want to be like a big name, doesn't want to be on TV, anything like that. He just wants to be left alone to create his creations in peace. And by the way, obviously, Ireland sold 500 odd million, and even before that they were making hundreds of millions anyway, so he is very, very well off. So don't worry about Josh, he's doing just fine, and still does not want to come out into the open just yet. So Josh Levine, have you ever heard of him? Do let me know down below in the comments who you believe is actually Satoshi Nakamoto. In fact, I have over here on Twitter, if you head over to my Twitter account, there'll be a link for that down below. And if you scroll down, I've got this one here. So people have actually already been on this, only three votes so far, but just vote on there who you believe is. In fact, Josh Levine right now is actually winning, and I haven't told anybody other than tweeting this. I haven't actually let anybody know. Craig Wright is on 0 so far, so it's going to be interesting. This is a 5-day poll, so do get on there over the next couple of days if you're watching this fairly early on and vote on that, or at least just go over and see what the final result was. It'd be quite interesting to see what everybody thinks. So these other couple of guys, if you don't know who they are, you can read about them over on here on Wikipedia. Just scroll down and it gives you a little talk about who they are. Now, I actually found out about Josh Levine because there's not really much on there at all. You know, you've got his Twitter profile where he only has 7,000 followers, and you can also find him here on YouTube. So if you look on his videos and you go all the way back to his old videos, now again, just like on his Twitter, he doesn't really like to show himself a lot at all. So if we go for oldest first, we can see 13 years. So he's been on YouTube for 13 years now, and he only has 1.2 thousand subscribers. So obviously somebody that doesn't like to self-promote at all. Plus, while we're here, just to let you know, you can also go over to josh.com and see his very terrible looking blog there, which he's been running this blog for years and years and years, ever since his days back at Daytech. So lots of stuff on his blog. But definitely the type of character that you could well imagine would be Satoshi Nakamoto, somebody with the technical skills of distributed systems to create something, the code for something like Bitcoin, and also in a financial sense as well, because he's worked in the financial markets doing that type of distributed system. Plus, he's also proven himself to be someone that is very keen to share that type of code and just be open, allow it to be open source, not really bothered about money at all, but more about social values and helping society. So he's a very good person, you could say. Plus also the fact that he doesn't like to self-promote, he doesn't like to push himself out there and be known at all, just like on his Twitter profile there where he describes himself as no one of any importance. So I really like Josh. I think he's a great guy, and I'm very happy to do this video and suggest that he could be Satoshi Nakamoto. But even if he was, due to his character type, he would never ever admit it, so we would never know. And I'm not saying that he is, because obviously I don't know, but I believe that Satoshi Nakamoto is very likely to be somebody like Josh Levine, if not him himself. Now, it's very hard to find somebody with Josh's personality that also has the background and the technical skills to actually create something like Bitcoin. Obviously, Josh Levine is the complete package. He well could be, but you would never know, because he's that type of personality that he would never want to be known or have any reason to sort of put himself out as being Satoshi Nakamoto. So there we go. If you want to find out more about this type of story, I actually found all about it in this book here called Dark Pools. So in the evenings, while just trying to work up my steps after sitting here at the desk all day, I just go out for a little walk, listen to audiobooks. This one here, Dark Pools by Scott Patterson. The Rise of AI Trading Machines and the Looming Threat to Wall Street. Excellent book, really good in detail. Great if you want a better understanding of how markets work and how bots actually interact. I've seen a lot of this since reading this book. I've seen a lot of action on the exchanges like Binance, OKX, where you can see that bot traffic. And when you understand the coding that goes behind the bots and what they're actually doing, then you can really understand that price action in the market, in the exchanges, and it gives you a better understanding of what's going on. So I definitely recommend, if you are into becoming a trader or you are already trading, then this is a great book to understand what's going on with the bots and how they're affecting the price. So anyway, link for that below. Do head over to my Twitter account there and vote on the post for who you believe is Satoshi Nakamoto. I think that'll be very interesting to see who wins that in a few days. And that's it for me for this week. Next week, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing yet, so please do comment down below in the description, under the description there in the comments, of anything that you think you would like me to do a video on. So whether that's your favorite ICO, just a normal coin, some exchange, anything like that, comment down below, give me some ideas of what I could do a video on next week, and I'm completely open to anything in anything crypto related anyway. So that's it for me, and I shall see you all again next week.